Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you in part by Mays Sandwich Shop, serving delicious hometown favorites to the West Lawn community since 1947. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
College football.
But now Blackledge is going to put it up on first down. He's scoring for the bundle. Garrity! Touchdown!
And the NFL.
The Denver Broncos are world champions. They have just won Super Bowl 50.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 215th episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, co-host Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here and getting a chance to kind of dive into the NFL season tonight. We've obviously been following along, but to get to sit down and kind of talk about what we've seen is I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's actually been a while since, or not very often over the last kind of 6 months have we actually been together to do our standard show, the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, the original show that started it all back in February 2011.
The number one.
The number one, I mean, in the world. I mean, don't look it up, just believe us when we say it. But Justin and I have been keeping busy. We've been doing a lot with the second show that started last year. It's in its second season now, the Bulldog Hour, focusing on the Wilson West Lawn Bulldog football program, and we've actually ramped things up this year and are already getting ready to record the 5th episode for that next weekend. But we're here to talk about the NFL again. Now, 2 weeks ago, it was just me talking about the first 2 weeks of the season, and 2 weeks prior to that, Justin and I talked about, we finalized our previews for the season, going over the East divisions and our expectations for the playoffs and Super Bowl 51. But tonight we're going to take a look back briefly at Week 3 last Sunday, and then take a look at the action from Thursday and Sunday in Week 4 of the 2016 season. And as I mentioned 2 weeks ago when I did it by myself, Week 2, it's kind of, teams are still feeling themselves out, figuring out who they are. Injuries are mounting or people are coming back. But by Week 4, you're starting to get an idea of who are the contenders and who are the pretenders. And, well, a couple of them were a bit surprising today as you kind of keep giving some teams the benefit of the doubt. But once you get through a quarter way of the season and they're not taking strides, it's time to start sounding the alarms. And there's also going to be those naysayers that predicted it to start the year and be like, I told you so, which I would never do that. Like I did with the 49ers a couple years ago. But I would never, ever do that again, right? I don't think so, because I'm not sure any of the teams that are either really good or really bad are ones that we said would be that way.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure that there's one that I would tell you. For you, I think...
Actually, I'm gonna brag about the Raiders for a little bit. Now it's still early, because they haven't played Denver yet, and that's the big barometer for me.
If I thought you might say the Panthers. Now, I know we were both
we still picked them to win the division,
I know. But, and that's what I was going to say. Maybe off the record, I feel like you were more down on the Panthers than, like, when it comes down to pick it.
But see, if I didn't have the nerve to do it on the air, I don't think it counts. But I went on record back in the spring on the Raiders.
We nailed it with the Browns. They're pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, we did. We got that one. I'm happy with my pick of the Raiders and thinking that they would be better this year. But I'm probably wrong on Denver because I thought they were going to be a 7-9 team, and they're about to or have moved to 4-0 now after the second straight lightning delay in Tampa Bay. So, but I mean, it come down to, the Raiders Broncos games. And I hate to discount the Chiefs, but we don't know what they're going to do yet. They're playing the game right now against the Steelers. Just kicked off about 10 minutes ago.
That's a big game because they will either go to 2-2 or
and lose ground.
Right, and lose a game to
the Raiders.
Both the Raiders
2 to the Broncos.
Yeah, they'll be 2 behind the Broncos, or they'll be at 3-1, tied with the Raiders, correct? And 1 game behind Denver with. I don't think they played them yet. So
I don't believe so. But so week 4 is the first week with byes, and your Eagles are off, as are the Packers.
Right.
But let's quick jump back to week 3 since we didn't get to talk about week 3. There are a couple games. There are a couple games in week 3 that are a little bit eye-opening, and let's start right there with your not so pompous take on the Battle of Pennsylvania, where Pittsburgh went to Philadelphia, and they came in. Everyone's always about black and gold, but they left bruised.
Yeah. So. I went in just hoping the Eagles would survive without major injuries. That's basically where, show if the offense could show something, because I know people after week 2 when the Steelers really kind of held AJ Green in check. They didn't really hold Andy Dalton in check. I mean, I guess they did in terms of touchdowns, but he still passed for over 300 yards, I think, because I think the Steelers have allowed a 300-yard passer in all 3 weeks leading up to tonight. Now, if Alex Smith throws for 300 yards against them, you can start, there's going to be some major red flags in Pittsburgh, if there aren't already. However, the Eagles were able to just kind of have their way with the Steelers. The Steelers marched right down the field, dropped a pass for a touchdown. Again, hit the guy in the chest, and he just dropped it. And then the Eagles blocked the field goal, and then pretty much from there, that was it. The Steelers got a field goal later in the second quarter, but the Eagles came out and scored 3 touchdowns in the third quarter to push it from a 13 to 3 lead at halftime to a 34 to 3 lead, and that was pretty much it. So as we were going through. Just looking at how that game went, I was not at all expecting it to go that way, and I think virtually no one was. I think there were a lot of people.
You're right, no one was.
I think there were a lot of people, if you would have said, hey, the final score would be 34 to 3, people would have bought into that.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
People would have bought into that, including me. All right, and for it to be the other way, and Joey here has just loved being able to, hop on the Wentz wagon with everybody. Yeah, he's all on board with everyone.
Look,
all in, right,
I'll
Joey?
address this now. First, I don't know what to expect from Carson Wentz. When we talked about it leading up to the draft and after the draft.
And anyone who says they did is lying.
I was kind of like, I see the potential, but I'm not going to stick my neck out there and be like, he's the next, great quarterback. And I'm also not going to do that now because we've seen too many times over the last years a rookie have a great first or second season and completely fall off. I mean, look at all the people that Harold and Mark Sanchez. Look at all the people that got on the Robert Griffin bandwagon.
Yeah, let's just hope that's not the case here.
Right. Oh, and anytime
you're right.
You've thrown other, right. And people have shown flashes as a rookie. I think Blaine Gabbert had a couple of flashes down in Jacksonville. Well, look what's happened with him. There's plenty of examples out there. So, and people want to call me a pessimist or a hater, whatever, that's fine. I always say I'm trying to be a realist.
You are, but that doesn't make you not a realist.
Right. I'm just saying, all right, and it's not my team, so in the long run, it doesn't matter to me. Right. And the only reason I tried to throw back some of the obnoxiousness at the beginning of last week because I was just in a text conversation thread with you, Pat, and Greg, just completely getting under my skin on purpose. And I was just
we would never do such a thing.
No, you would never do that.
We would never do such a thing.
My dad says they're definitely going to the Super Bowl. And then he actually sent 5 of the crying, laughing emojis.
I'll be honest. I am really surprised your dad knows how to get to the emojis.
Right?
Actually, he may only be able to text in emojis from now on because he might not be able to
now he can't get back to the regular
until
keyboard.
You switch it back for him tomorrow when you see him.
I should go into his settings and change it to be like Arabic.
You should change everything so that everything is a shortcut to a different word. So that everything is a shortcut to, like...
Every time he types the letter A.
It should be, Joey, why don't you take off today? That's it.
Well, see,
Except he's listening
the problem
to
is
this.
he's listening to us right now, so we can't even do that. He's actually typing a response. Oh, now he's sending the poop emoji. And like, actually, is there... I want to make sure there's no, like, giveaways on. Can you see that? There's the poop emoji. Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
So,
man.
but, you know...
Yeah, so,
but back
yes.
to Wentz and the Eagles.
Right.
Well,
But
they
it was-
obviously are a surprise.
Right. And the Eagles scoring 34 points was amazing. I don't mean to take the attention away from that, but what I'm really surprised about
The defense
is
held
how
them to
well
3?
Jim Schwartz is doing. Yeah, like the Eagles defense. Now, yes, they played the Browns in Week 1, right? Funny how some of the Redskins fans I know who were like bashing the Eagles for their Week 1 win aren't necessarily speaking today as in when they were in a back and forth with the Browns. So just to clarify that. Week 2 they beat the Bears, who again aren't good, but beat the Lions today, which might say more about the Lions than it does
Yeah,
about
that was
the Bears.
disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they beat the Steelers. Now, the Steelers have defensive issues that are clear as day. The secondary, which they have
We've
some,
been saying
they now
for,
have
what, a
some
decade?
guys there, right? But since Troy Polamalu started getting hurt, right, that's been it, you know. And I think there are some legitimate questions about the Steelers. I said to people in the real conversations, not necessarily in our text things where we were just all kind of piling on you, and you're not even a Steelers fan. We were just taking shots at you.
No, it was just the pretentious Eagles are the most incredible team in the world, and Carson Wentz is the greatest quarterback ever. Which I knew you were joking. Like, I knew it was just a joke, but I wasn't gonna hold back.
I was gonna say that doesn't make it any less. I mean, maybe a little less frustrating, but still annoying to keep getting the buzzing on your phone as we're texting ridiculous
I actually
stuff.
muted it. I actually muted it for a while. I actually put that like conversation in night mode, and I was just like, I'm just done with this. But okay, but my main point when talking like from a serious standpoint is, did you really expect the Eagles to be anything less than undefeated entering that game? Because entering the season, I thought they'd beat the Browns, and now I could maybe say the Bears was a toss-up, but I fully expected the Eagles to be 2-0 entering that game.
I was hopeful they'd be 2-0. I anticipated 1-1. That was me, especially with some of the uncertainties that they had kind of in other areas.
Yeah, I mean, they never thought they'd be 0-2. At least 1-1, if not 2-0. And then I thought for sure they would drop to 2-1 because I thought Pittsburgh would be better than them. Now comes the question is, was this a Steelers fluke? Was this an Eagles fluke? Are we seeing what both of these teams are? I mean, you're right. The Steelers have issues in the secondary. But if they meet again, what if it happens in Pittsburgh?
Right. Well,
now, I know that can't happen.
This is exactly, like, in the real conversations that I've had, I said, look, on this one day, the Eagles were a lot better. One day. By the end of the season, it's going to play itself out. That's why there's 16 games in the season. And at the end of the season, I think the Steelers are going to be in a better position than the Eagles are at the end of the season. That's not to say that the Eagles still can't be better or worse, really, than I anticipate going into this year, where I kind of picked them in the 7 to 9 win range, I think. 9 being at the very high end, but probably more the 7 or 8 wins. And, you know, the Steelers probably 10, 11, you know, probably more closer to that 11 win area. That's still kind of where I see both those teams falling. But on the one day, everything went right for the Eagles. Everything went wrong for the Steelers, including they started getting really banged up. They had some injuries coming in, but they started getting really banged up. Shazier, who got hurt in the Eagles game, is out tonight. I know Lawrence Timmons severed an artery in his leg.
Good.
Yeah, that they kept saying on TV that like this is a shin injury. Yeah, it was a shin injury because it was an artery near his shin that got severed, and that's why they had to take him to the hospital, which is crazy.
Yeah,
he's okay, but again, just did not see that game coming at all. I had said to you before, I was glad that the Eagles had the early bye because let's face it, they're not really looking at being a true like Super Bowl contender. Let's just focus on not getting
this
hurt
is kind
and
of what you pointed
and then
at.
regrouping after the Steelers beat down and then move on. Well, now they had all this momentum that wasn't crushed. On the other hand, maybe it's good to be like, because I feel like I don't know. It might backfire because they might get a lot of pats on the back saying, we just beat the Steelers, blah, 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 for 2 weeks instead of one. But, I hope they can put that behind them or at least maybe bask in it this past week and then, get back to work tomorrow and be ready to go next week when they play Detroit, who is kind of reeling right now,
yeah.
Which makes them a dangerous team to play.
6 weeks ago, people were circling Week 5 as the odds-on debut for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, coming out of the bye.
Expected to be, I guess I shouldn't. That was probably a good place to bet because
it's been 3 games. Sam Bradford probably would have been hurt already. So
right, but then Bradford got traded. They decided to go with the rookie, and why not?
One of the more interesting headlines I read on last Monday, so coming off 12 hours after the Eagles win, was what would the Eagles' headlines be today if Teddy Bridgewater hadn't gotten hurt?
Right, yeah.
And it was an interesting thing to think about. And it wasn't one of those saying, it was just saying, look how crazy the NFL is in this sense. And that's basically kind of what they were alluding to was Carson Wentz wouldn't have been starting. The Eagles, who knows what happens. Sam Bradford, everything he's shown in Minnesota, maybe he'd be working out just fine in Philly too. I don't know.
Yeah, right, you don't know. But this has the potential, not in the exact same way, but it's almost could be, if things turn out great for the Eagles and Wentz, to be your own Bledsoe Brady moment.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't on your team.
Right.
But because Bridgewater got hurt, the Vikings felt they're contenders, which, newsflash, they are.
Yeah.
Just by bringing in Bradford, they were able to stay up there. But the Eagles now got a guy that, through 3 games, looks like a great player.
Right.
And I'm going to continue to say it's way too early.
Right.
But
so you're not
for
going to
right
give the
now,
same take that Philly Sports Radio was this week saying they wouldn't trade him for anybody in the league.
Right, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
To be fair, as a sports radio guy, it's an interesting conversation to have because the guy wasn't actually saying he's better than everyone in the league, but he's based on the things you've seen, does he have the potential to be that elite? Oh, I didn't mean to use that, but just does he have the chance to be the franchise quarterback? And he's like, I haven't seen anything to tell me no. I can't say yes, but I wouldn't pull the trigger on moving him right now.
Some of my responses may be surprising to some people just because I tend to jump into front office and Moneyball mode. Because if you offered me Brady for Wentz, I'd say no. Why? Because Brady's nearing the end of his tenure. If I have the potential to have a young star quarterback, I'm not trading it for
Brady's
a 39. Hey, it's kind of been proven. Although, their play today was not exactly.
Well, they're trying to throw people off.
Right? So, let's quick breeze through week 3 so we can get to actual week 4. A massive shootout on Monday Night Football last week. 77 points scored, and the Falcons came out on top of the Saints, who at the time were winless, 45-32. Wow, no defense in the NFC South, at least in that matchup for sure.
No.
And after we saw a few games today, still not much defense from Atlanta, though it isn't hurting them. Your favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys, came out on top of the Bears on Sunday Night Football last week. The Bears were winless after that game. Cowboys moved to 2-1. The 31-17 victory. The biggest story coming out of that is Dak Prescott. I know people point to Des Bryant and the injury and all that drama going on with him, but Dak Prescott continues to look good for Dallas. They easily could have, some people would say should have, won the opener against the Giants. They could also be sitting at 3-0. They're not, but the best thing that comes from the Eagles' success and the Cowboys' success is that they get to meet October 30th in Dallas and Week 17 in Philadelphia.
Oh my gosh.
And just from a football fan perspective, because I have no love for either team, and at times I could hate the Eagles. And generally, when those teams play, I'm not really rooting for anyone because I know too many people that like both teams to stick my neck out there.
Let's be honest, though. The threat of that text chain on that Sunday night at the end of December or maybe early January.
It's actually, in January.
Yeah, on January 1st, isn't it?
It might be.
I think so. So the threat of that email chain, I think if the opportunity presented itself, you'd be wearing a big blue star on your chest. At least on your heart.
You're probably right. You're probably right about that.
Oh, gosh.
So, But I'm really excited because when the biggest rivalries in the NFL, when both teams are good, it's even
a lot
better.
more fun.
It's so much more fun. So, Cowboys Eagles games and Steelers Ravens games, they're always going to be exciting. But when both teams are good and something's on the line, oh, they're so much better. So I'm really excited that both teams are doing well so far this year. Last week, Colts got their first win over the Chargers 26-22. Chiefs pounded the Jets 24-3. Seattle finally broke out offensively, put up 37 on the 49ers. Rams Buccaneers, Los Angeles, looking decent, knocking off the Bucks, who had now given up 72 points in weeks 2 and 3. The Vikings made a statement in Carolina, winning 22-20 and doing it almost exclusively with defense, but they really knocked around the defending NFC champs.
And the Panthers' 10 points, I think, were punt return for a touchdown and a safety.
Field goal.
Okay,
The Ravens got the safety.
Okay.
They sacked, I think, Cam in the end zone. Baltimore squeaked out a victory over the Jaguars. They improved to 3-0, dropping Jacksonville to 0-3. Detroit and Green Bay played a thriller. The Lions tried to come back after Green Bay went up big. Couldn't finish the deal. Packers moved to 2-1. They're on a bye this week. Denver continued to look good against the Bengals, dropping them to 1-2.
The defense is so good.
With their victory 29-17. The Dolphins were able to get their first win in overtime in a game that they probably should have lost. The Redskins and Giants played a great game in week 3 last week. The Redskins coming out on top 29-27. That was their first win of the season, dropping the Giants from the ranks of the undefeated. Raiders Titans in Tennessee. Raiders hold on in a little bit of a controversial one, 17-10. Two big statement games earlier in the week. The early Sunday game, 1:00. Arizona at Buffalo. Buffalo coming off of a humiliating loss. They were 0-2. They made a statement by beating the Cardinals by 15, 33-18, dropping Arizona to 1-2. And we're not done with the Cardinals. We'll come back to them in a little bit. But the Thursday night game from week 3, everyone thought that maybe this is the year that the Texans can break out. If they're going to do so, they have to challenge the Patriots. And they went up to Gillette and got humiliated. They got shut out, and they gave up 27 to Jacoby Brissett.
Right, and it wasn't really that close. I mean, they were thoroughly dominated in the game. It was an embarrassing effort. Like it really looked like a lack of effort. Sometimes it just looks like one team's better. It was a bad game. So
all right. So before we move on to week 4, just to get this out there, we do take callers and things like that during the show. But a bigger thing is social media and email. So if you ever want to contact the show, Justin's got some of that information for you.
Yeah, so we'd love to have your take on any of the games or any of your takes so far as we quickly approach. There's just kind of like 1 3/4 games left in the first quarter of the season for most of the teams.
Hey, it's October now.
Yeah, that's crazy. But anyway, we'd love to have your take. You can call the Maze Sandwich Shop hotline at 530-563-6297. Again, 530-563-6297. You can also email us anytime, including during the show, at the Maze Sandwich Shop email inbox at joemaze and jraff@gmail.com. Again, joemaze and jraff@gmail.com.
I think it might be time to open up that sponsorship by just not getting bang for our buck out of it. So I just... I don't know. I think
Next thing
we'll have to.
I find myself in the back of a refrigerated truck and work hard for that sponsorship.
We're also on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Joe Mays and J-Raff or at Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. And, let's move right back on to the NFL action. Week 4, we alluded to it a bit, recapping Week 3. Thursday night, my Dolphins looked as inept as ever, scoring only 1 touchdown in the first quarter, giving up 22 to the Bengals. Cincinnati at 2-2. They got losses to both the Steelers and the Broncos, so on paper it doesn't look like they're maybe up there in the, as you like to say, the elite of in the world. But I mean, I think they're definitely a team to watch out. I think they could challenge, and obviously if they get hot at the right time, Bengals are definitely still in it. Whereas my Dolphins probably should be. I'll say they should be 0-4, but because they shouldn't have beat Cleveland, but they could have easily beating both Seattle and New England.
Let's be honest; it's really tough to kind of tell where they are right now because All right, so they beat the Browns, who are
in overtime because of missed field goal.
Who are worse than the Dolphins, though. Like, let's just say, I mean, maybe the
I
game didn't show.
hope
Right.
that they're worse than
we
the
would
Dolphins.
peg the Dolphins as better than the Browns.
Yes.
But they lost to the Bengals, who, again, based on everything we've talked about, preseason, all that stuff, regardless of where we think the Bengals will finish in their division, we would have probably picked the Bengals as better than the Dolphins.
Yes.
They lost to Seattle, same thing.
Yes.
They lost to New England, same thing.
Yes.
So, like, they lost to
You're
three
right.
teams
No,
that we
you're
would
right.
say are better than them, and they beat the team we would say they are better than.
You're right.
Now,
I mean,
the problem is, though, that I don't know how many games on their schedule we would say, oh, they're better than that team.
well,
and
they play Tennessee this coming week.
That's going to tell, because Tennessee's been close in a bunch of their games, but hasn't really been able to put it together.
I think they play Tennessee. They have a home game. I know that for sure.
Say must win. I don't know at 1-3.
Look,
in some ways there's lots of urgency. In some ways
no
there's
one
not.
expected much out of him anyways this year. But
I can't believe they're having trouble scoring like they are.
That's
what surprised me. Gase is the quarterback whisperer.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot written about Tannehill recently. We could do an entire show about it, so we're just going to have to move on here. The Jaguars today, over in London, I love watching football at 9:30 in the morning, by the way.
Fantastic.
It's awesome. So, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, crazy game, as Jacksonville was in control for most of it. Then all of a sudden, Indianapolis offense woke up and scored 21 in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Now, the Jacksonville
Which is what
offense,
they pulled last week against Tennessee.
Yep. The Jacksonville offense was able to get it done when they needed to, and then the Jacksonville defense stood up when they had to, and the Jaguars got their first win of the season, I believe.
Yeah.
And dropped the Colts to 1-3.
Both teams are in London, so obviously they have the bye next week. And I texted you, like, if the Jaguars lose, I texted you, I think, when they fell behind.
Gus Bradley loses
I was
his
like,
job.
I think Gus Bradley's fired if they go to 0-4 going into the bye.
Yeah,
coming
because
home
people
from
thought
Denver.
the Jags could be a team to watch,
The
including us.
The owner said before the season, it's playoffs or bust this year. Well, at 0-4, you're not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, at 1-3, honestly, in
You're
that
probably
division,
still not making the playoffs.
you're probably not. But in that division, of all the divisions, you have a shot because if
Right.
they win their divisional games, they'll probably end up in. Now, I don't know that they will win their divisional games. But again, like we said, Houston hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire. Tennessee, Colts, they just beat today, so it's hard to say they're not.
They need
at least in it
to
a
beat
little
the
bit.
Texans.
Yeah, it's going to come down to those two games, and then winning games like this against the Colts, who are
Well, you got to think that Pagano's done.
Well, yeah, example.
People thought he was gone last year.
Right, and I do. I like to credit the teams that stick with the guy, and give him a chance. But it might not have been the right call. It might not work out that way in Indianapolis. They're in trouble.
All right, so let's stick in the AFC South. Titans, Texans, a little bit closer and more interesting than maybe many thought it would be. Although Houston jumped out to a 14-0 lead, Tennessee clawed back and made it a game. But Houston came out on top in their first game without J.J. Watt and what looks like it's going to be for the rest of the season without J.J. Watt. 27-20, the biggest thing, and something that I can't believe that you throw one ball to DeAndre Hopkins, or he catches one. I don't know how many targets there were, but he only caught one ball for 4 yards. I literally got a big fat 0 in fantasy. Now, I was playing Greg, and he played Sammy Watkins, who is about to be placed on IR and didn't play today.
I didn't know he was going to be on IR.
That's the expectations.
Jeez.
But yeah, so Texans got their win. They moved to 3-1. They had a long week coming off of that Thursday night humiliating loss to the Patriots. Tennessee drops to 1-3, and like I mentioned, I believe Tennessee goes to Miami in week 5.
But even there, the Texans were hanging on. The Titans had the ball at like the 20-some yard line. So they had their shots. But so again, while they're 2 games up on the Jags, they're not exactly running away with it.
No.
So
Definitely, we said we don't think the AFC South is any good, but we think 3 teams could be in the running come
Right.
week 15 as the season's winding down, and I don't know why that won't be the case.
right, yeah, you start to wonder.
But I think you were right in saying you went with Houston to win the division, whereas I went with the Colts. After 4 weeks, I definitely favor Houston.
I think the Colts have the best quarterback. I still think Andrew Luck is the best quarterback in the division.
I agree.
The problem is, like, the rest of the team is so bad. Like, Frank Gore is their next best player. Like, 50-year-old Frank Gore is their next best player.
You mentioned...
Adam Vinatieri is their next best player, and then their punter is right behind him. So, two of their 3 best players
are special teams
guys that you can't hit. So.
At this point, you're thinking Andrew Luck's being like, man, I should have pulled an Elway.
Oh, man.
All right, so we mentioned the Browns a bunch, talking about Week 3, and even talking about a lot about the Eagles. So the Browns were... this game was very similar to the Tennessee-Houston game because Washington raced out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter. And next thing you know, I think the Browns were up 17-14.
Yeah.
All of a sudden. Now, at halftime, we went and tied, and the Browns actually led entering the fourth quarter, but Washington added 2 more touchdowns in the fourth to win that one 31-20.
The Browns fumbled twice in Redskins territory to set up those 2 touchdowns.
Yes, they did. Now, Seattle continues their...
I texted our friend of the show, a Browns fan, "Come on, Browns," when it was tied.
Yeah.
And they literally immediately fumbled before like the little like delivered sign pops up on the thing. But I'd already hit
send.
So
now he thought you were being sarcastic, right?
I was like, and I jinxed it. You're welcome.
So Seahawks got another win. They went to the Meadowlands to take on the Jets.
That's a nice win for the Seahawks. The Jets, who knows what they are?
Yeah, they're really up and down.
They looked really good on Thursday night against the Bills, except for giving up a few big plays. But they looked good, and then Fitzpatrick has thrown 9 interceptions the last 2 weeks.
Since then, yeah.
So now, a couple today, like if you throw the desperation one at the
end,
I mean, yes, it counts.
I've always said there should be qualifiers on interceptions. You know, everything else now the statistics have permeated the sports world. Like an interception, you should figure out, was it the receiver's fault or was it a bad throw?
Right.
Like if it's an overthrow and underthrow, that's on the quarterback.
So
if he ran the wrong route, that's on the receiver.
I remember, like when I would go to certain camps, right, for a different sport, but you were analyzing the players every game, and you would have to put down for a turnover. You had to put, was it a bad pass or was it a lost possession by the receiving end? So like you had to make that distinction, and sometimes it's really easy, and sometimes you're like, oh man, it's really hard. But like it's when you're looking at using the numbers to analyze at high levels, you need that information.
Here's a perfect example of an obvious one. Last week on the Bulldog Hour, we recapped the Warwick game. And towards the end of the game, as Wilson was trying to run out the clock and win the game or even get a security score up on the board, I believe the down doesn't even matter because it was an interception. But 9 yards down the field, a Warwick defender literally tackled the receiver that was the intended target. 9 yards down the field. And I shouldn't have to tell people listening to the show that if you hit a receiver 9 yards down the field when the ball's in the air, it's interference. If the ball wasn't in the air, it's still a penalty because he's past the 5-yard cushion area. But the drive ended with an interception because there's no penalty thrown. Well, that interception shouldn't be on the quarterback.
Right, exactly.
Because it shouldn't have been an interception based on the rules. And also, the route was disrupted. I wouldn't put it on the receiver either.
The throw could have been the correct read and the correct throw.
But you'll never know.
Right, exactly. So, and then there's people who are like, oh, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, yeah. Sure. You got plenty
that's
like that.
That's how we've progressed. But
all right, so Seahawks win.
Good win for
lose.
the Seahawks though to come east and win a 1 o'clock game. I know people starting to try and not play into that as much, but that's a big win.
Entering the season when we did predictions and stuff, I expected the Patriots to get Brady back sitting at 3-1. Up until about 12 hours ago, it looked like I'd be wrong because they were going to go undefeated without Brady. But then you and your infinite wisdom earlier this week when we did our picks,
we discussed
I told you for the second straight week, you and I had the exact same picks save for one game. Now, I got the better of you last week because I took the Redskins over the Giants.
And we talked about it last week, too, because I was like, man, I don't see the Giants. I don't know that the Giants are actually... No, actually, what it was I thought the Giants were going to win, but I had trouble seeing the Redskins going to 0-3.
Right.
And they didn't.
And you took the Giants and I took the Redskins. Now, this week, our only different game was Buffalo, New England. And I said to you, I was shocked that you took the Bills.
Right. And before the show, I said I was wavering. And then when I saw the Sammy Watkins news, like not for the IR stuff, but the injury that he probably wasn't going to play, I was wavering a little bit more. But then after the Dolphins laid an egg on Thursday night, which away teams always do on Thursday night, but I look at it and everybody was saying, the Patriots, it's locked up, it's over. I'm like, look, I still think the Patriots are going to win the division. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, if the Bills win this game against a backup quarterback,
third-string quarterback,
right? Yeah, after the backup's
Brissett
backup,
played,
then they're in theory one game behind. You know, with a game like with a win over the Patriots in their pocket. And I'm like, I think Week 4 is too early to say it's over for everyone. And I was like, you know what, the Bills, and it was crazy, but I bet on Rex Ryan, and I was right this one time. So I'll take it, though.
Yeah, so the Bills beat the Patriots in Gillette 16-0. So
First time they've been shut out since 2006, I think, and first time they've been shut out at home since like 93 or 96.
Well, I hope my uncle enjoyed watching that one. Carolina,
Somehow,
Atlanta.
I think that was as sincere as him sending you the sorry from the
totally.
game where they beat the Dolphins.
Our NFL pool that we do the weekly picks, the winners only picks, he sends me his commentary for each game every week, and I said I just enjoy reading his thinking every week because he never picks against the Patriots, and he always has some snide remark about the Dolphins because he almost never picks them, and then when he does and they lose, he responds like it's my fault. All right, so last week we know the Falcons and the Saints were in a shootout. Well,
which wasn't really a surprise.
However, with the Panthers and what they had done last year, you didn't think that the Atlanta offense was in for that good of a day 2 weeks in a row. Well, you'd be wrong because they actually did better this week. And Matt Ryan threw for over 500 yards. And Julio Jones had 300 receiving yards, only the sixth time in NFL history, the first time in Atlanta Falcons history. And wow, what a day! The Falcons improved to 3-1, dropping the Panthers to 1-3, 48-33. Now this one was in Atlanta, not in Carolina. It would have been even bigger news if it was in Carolina.
If you look back to last year, Atlanta was the only team to beat the Panthers in the regular season.
Yep.
So maybe there's something to it down in Atlanta in terms of this particular matchup.
And it wasn't even as close as the score.
No,
I mean, it was 15 points. But at one point, Atlanta was up 31-10, and may have even been 38-10 at one point.
Yeah.
And then the Panthers got a bunch of scores, and it was actually without Cam Newton, who was in the concussion protocol, continues to be so, and his status for next week is up in the air. Oakland, Baltimore, in a crazy game. I think 3 or 4 lead changes in the fourth quarter alone.
Raiders jumped up. It looked like an awful and boring game, and then the fourth quarter happened.
Yeah.
And it was just back and forth.
It was 7-0 after the first, favor the Raiders. 14-6 favor the Raiders at halftime. All of a sudden, it's 14-20 Ravens, and then in the fourth quarter, 29 combined points. Raiders come out with the 28-27 1-point victory. But it looked like it was going to be. It looked like it was going to be Raiders. Then all of a sudden, the Ravens scored, and the Raiders fumbled, and the Ravens scored again. But then the Ravens defense couldn't hold Oakland, and Michael Crabtree caught his third touchdown pass from Derek Carr.
I don't know if you saw the end of the game. Ravens have it. Actually, it was at the 50-yard line.
Midfield, yep.
Couple bad throws by Flacco. Couple just
three bad
Yeah.
throws.
So then they come to 4th and 10.
Mm-hmm.
They have maybe the strongest leg kicker in the league.
Tucker.
Arguably.
68-yarder, though.
Who kicked a 65-yarder in pregame. Now, look, I know it's completely different, but your chances are 4th and 10 or taking the 68-yarder when you know the guy has the leg. I'm not saying he'll make it, but he has the leg for a 65-yarder.
I don't know, 68-yarder, man.
I think I try it. I think I try the field goal.
Well, now they might.
Well, yeah, but I was screaming it at the TV. I'm like, I kick, and the people in the room disagreed with me. They're like, you got to go for it here. 68 is ridiculous. I'm like, I understand it's ridiculous, but like, have you seen the last 3 plays? So it's going for it on 4th and 10. Like,
they actually almost got it, and the Raiders safety jacked up.
Yeah.
Was that Steve Smith? I don't remember who the receiver was.
It was a rookie.
Now he didn't have the ball at the time. He was kind of behind him, bouncing it, and the Raiders safety hit him right in the chest.
The safety did
ended
a perfect job.
He ended the chance for him to catch the ball.
But man, it was just one of those where I don't know. easy for me to say, but I think they should have kicked.
I don't know if he's listening or if it's just a coincidence, but my Uncle Rich just texted at midnight, Brady is back, get ready. So we'll see what's going on here. But I actually have a couple of texts from my dad as well.
I'll be honest, I kind of would have liked for the Patriots to win today and lose next week. That would have just been fun.
My dad says after 4 weeks, his three biggest surprises are Philadelphia being better than expected, Atlanta being better than expected, and Arizona being worse than expected because they lost today to the Rams, to the LA Rams, 17-13, and now I believe the LA Rams are 3-1 after that humiliating loss to the 49ers on opening Monday night. They've now won 3 in a row over the Seahawks, the Bucks, and the Cardinals.
Yeah, so they're in first place, tied with the Rams, but they have tied with the
Seahawks, but they have the head-to-head tiebreaker. Right. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with Arizona. Carson Palmer now, he's concussed. They've got issues. A little bit of surprising because they were a team that we kind of doubted the last couple of years that they were better. But now this year we were like, they'll still be there. And nope.
And what's this Carson Palmer thing going to turn into? Because we always say like they're always living on the edge there with that. But I don't know. The Cardinals, lots and lots of questions there, and it's just not going well for them at all.
Another head-scratching loss was Detroit in Chicago, falling to the Bears 17-14. The Lions, they looked not too bad after the first 2 weeks now, and I know last week they eventually played the Packers tough, but Detroit, you're thinking, okay, maybe they're a little bit better. Then they go to Chicago, winless Chicago, backup quarterbacks in Chicago, backup running back in Chicago.
Winless Chicago, who looked absolutely terrible last week. They gave up 200 yards rushing in the first quarter last week. Think about that. That's hard to do. It's hard to have enough time to be that bad in the first quarter.
Matthew Stafford looked bad for the Lions today, so they drop to, I believe, 1-3. I think they opened the season with a win, a surprising win over the Colts.
Yep.
But then they lost to the Titans,
Which,
the
in
Packers,
reality, look
and the
at
Bears.
it now. How good was that win?
Right. So, Broncos stayed undefeated with a victory over Tampa Bay. That game was delayed again because of lightning. Denver 27-7. Simeon was taken off with a shoulder injury, and Paxton Lynch came in and threw a touchdown pass. I don't know if Simeon came back. I'd want to say no.
I don't think so.
But again, that Denver defense gave up one touchdown.
I know the time of year is different, and that'll play a factor, but we've had back-to-back weeks of lightning delays in Tampa, and that is where not BCS, but the College Football Championship game is this year. So that could be interesting just in that sense of, a lot of times now they pick places where weather is almost a non-factor. But
speaking of lightning, the Chargers now have blown 2 games in the first 4 weeks of the season. They were up big on the Chiefs in week 1 and lost. Now this week they host the Saints, the first return trip for Drew Brees to San Diego in over a decade.
Which is hard to believe.
It's crazy. Well, think about it. NFC, AFC.
All right.
And then last time they probably played was in New Orleans instead of San Diego. So, it's been over 10 years since Drew Brees played a professional game in San Diego, and all he did was lead a fourth-quarter comeback with 2 touchdowns to beat the Chargers 35-34. Melvin Gordon leads the NFL with rushing touchdowns 6. However, he also had a fumble to contribute to the Saints' comeback, as did wide receiver Travis Benjamin. The last game to talk about, Cowboys-49ers. Dallas improved to 3-1, making the Eagles-Cowboys race to the night before Halloween even more spectacular. They beat the 49ers 24-17. Game was tied at halftime, 14-all, but Dallas got a touchdown in the second half. That would prove to be the difference. And, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott getting it done. It's probably easy to do with that kind of offensive line. I'm more interested in Dallas defensively. Yeah. Can they withstand...
Here's another surprise.
The entire season.
Chip Kelly team looking good on offense for one half. Shocker. Right. I know that's a real surprise to everyone.
Now, for those of you not watching the Sunday night game, the Steelers scored 22 first quarter points to jump out to a 22-0 lead on the Kansas City Chiefs. Ben Roethlisberger hit Le'Veon Bell. Oh, excuse me, no, that's the current drive. I'm reading here now. I'm looking for the scoring drive, and it's showing me the current drive. Let's see if I can get... Maybe it won't let me do that.
How do they not have scoring plays linked? But anyway.
That seems absurd. Here we go.
Brown
First quarter.
2 Antonio Brown touchdowns.
Hey, that's good for us.
Yeah, that is good.
Antonio Brown, 38-yard pass. Antonio Brown, 4-yard pass. Darius Hayward-Bay, 31-yard pass. So if you have Ben Roethlisberger, guess what?
This drive was 1 play, 4 yards.
Wow, okay. Wonder what happened there.
2 plays, 40 yards.
And
3 plays, 32
so
yards.
they were up actually 14-0, and I don't know what happened. They must have decided to go for 2 because it was Roethlisberger
Which
to
they
Wheaton.
do sometimes.
Roethlisberger couldn't be the holder, so... yeah, wow. So Roethlisberger's 8 for 11, 153 yards and 3 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell's rushed only 2 times for 6 yards, but Antonio Brown has 3 catches, 60 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Good to know.
That would do it. Looks like there was a fumble. Alex Smith already has an interception. Spencer Ware has a lost fumble. I'm guessing that's probably what led to the one-play touchdown.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless something crazy happens, now I expect the Steelers to improve to 3-1, rebound off that loss to the Eagles last week. Chiefs now going to be in a hole looking up towards the Raiders and the Broncos.
And like we said before the show, as this game was getting started, it is what we kind of expected from the Steelers. They're not as bad as last week against the Eagles. It was one of those scenarios where everything went wrong for them. Everything kind of went right for the Eagles. I'll take it because I'm an Eagles fan, and I still expect the Steelers to be there. I think we both. I don't know. I think we both picked them to win that division. So.
Well, I picked them to win the Super Bowl. So, did I pick them to win the Super Bowl or lose to the Seahawks? I had it Pittsburgh, Seattle, but now I can't remember. You had it Seattle, New England.
Right, and I think I picked Seattle.
I think you did too, but I can't remember.
I know I did. I wouldn't have picked New England to win.
I think I picked the Steelers to beat the Seahawks.
I
think you picked the Seahawks to beat the Patriots.
Right.
So, I'm not going to change that yet because I know Seattle didn't look good the first 2 weeks, but I think they're starting. And Russell Wilson's not at 100%.
But he's looked better the last 2 weeks.
Which we need to change that in
and
fantasy.
You know who else has looked
They're on a
good
bye in week 5, though.
You know who else has looked good for them, and this could be huge as we go. Jimmy Graham is starting to come around.
Finally, he messed me up last year. I took him early in the fantasy draft, and he did nothing.
Yeah.
So
I just jinxed that too. So
yeah, totally. All right, the last game is Monday night. That is Giants at Vikings. And the Giants coming off the loss to the Redskins. Vikings coming off the beatdown on the Panthers. If the Vikings want to prove that they are the team to beat in the NFC, they need to win this game at home and against a team that
new stadium Monday night game. It's going to be loud.
And it's against a team that you probably should beat, looking at the way the season has unfolded. So if you lose this game, then the question marks come back up.
Right.
So if Sam Bradford and the Vikings defense have been the big players, if they can hold Eli or force him into turnovers.
I look at what the Redskins did in terms of turnovers to the Giants last week, and then you think they're going against the Vikings this week. Now, again, that's not always how it works out, and especially in the NFL, but that Vikings defense has looked really good.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out tomorrow.
Definitely. So that's it for week 4. Now we'll be back again in 2 weeks, and we will recap weeks 5 and 6. That'll be episode 216. You can get more from us on jmnjrradio.com, and you can also make sure you follow all of the accounts on Twitter at jmnjr_radio, at Joe Mays and J-Raff, at jmflyer1454, and at Mr_Raffoff. Any shout-outs to throw out there this week?
Not off the top of my head. My sister survived skydiving.
Hey, that's good. I saw she was doing that. I was like, oh, man.
When I saw it, I was like, I hope she's either done it or told
right,
my dad already, because this is not going to go well.
Yeah. I think that's everything. Hope I'm not forgetting anything. But we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk more NFL and to make up for anything we screwed up this week. So thanks for joining us. This wraps up the 215th episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm J-Raff.
And I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live on Ustream or Mixler and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.